Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha, गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरानिताई जय गौरानिताई जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रील प्रभुपाद। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Let's chant the Mangalarcharan prayers. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितान्तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। Anybody has any question around any of the previous verses? नहीं? ठीक है. So let's start. Do you remember what did we cover in the previous previous class, and what was the main point of those verses? What was the main thing, the main theme of the verses that we covered last week, last class? हरे कृष्णा, क्या हुआ?
Prabhu, so the main verse was Bhagavan. I mean, now that Arjuna surrendered himself, now Bhagavan starts to give the, his part of, the advice and everything. So that is what the main thing.
Correct. But what was the main teaching that he gave?
So if I remember, so he was telling uh, Arjuna, why are you lamenting on things which, which is not wise for him?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. But this was not the main point. What was the main point? Why are you lamenting upon it? Actually was spoken 2, 3 classes back. That was in verse 2 and 3.
Hmm.
Yeah. But in the verse 13, especially, what did the Lord speak? Because of which I have been telling that this is the fundamental verse, the most basic. Anybody? Garima Mataji?
Sorry, Prabhu, I have a very bad memory. I've been thinking about what was it, but I don't recall. It was something about the soul, but I'm not able to correct because you started on the more purpose of the soul rather than the worldly affairs or worldly thing that uh, Arjun is trapped in. But exactly what was it? I'm not able to get. Sorry.
Okay, fine. Okay. Deepak Prabhu, anything from your side?
प्रभु जी सॉरी मुझे लास्ट ज्यादा याद नहीं है प्रभु लास्ट क्लास का ना
अच्छा, ठीक है. Okay. So, what has happened so far now? Arjun has asked 4 questions in the first chapter, and another question, the fifth one, in the second chapter. Now, the Lord starts speaking. Obviously, he has to answer those questions, right? Why? Because Arjun has told him, Na yotse iti govindam, I'm not going to fight. Why? Because he is not able to take a decision whether he should fight or he should not fight. Hmm? And he is saying that I have temporarily taken a decision that I'm not going to fight until I get satisfactory answers to my questions. Right? So the Lord automatically obtains a responsibility to answer those questions to ensure that Arjuna will fight. So the Lord starts answering these questions. And from the first verse that he speaks, which is verse number 11, I'm not counting verse number 2 and 3, although the Lord spoke those, although he spoke as the Lord, but he spoke as the friend of Arjun, not as a guru of Arjun. So technically speaking, the Lord, the verse number 11, which the Lord speaks, is the verse where the real Bhagavad Gita starts. Until then, whatever has been spoken, the 46 of the first chapter and the 10 verses of the second chapter, these 56 verses are a prelude to whatever the Lord is speaking. Okay. So now from verse 11, he starts answering Arjuna's questions. Okay. So he answers the first question first. What was the first question? That he is compassionate to the death that the meaning, the unavoidable death of the relatives of the Pandavas and Kauravas. So the Lord is now speaking from the perspective of a soul. Why? Because Arjuna's questions were more from the material body perspective. Arjun wasn't considering that from a long term perspective, it is the soul which actually plays the role, not the body. Because we think long term from one life perspective, whereas the Lord thinks long term from the perspective of the soul, from the perspective of multiple lifetimes. What is good, maybe 100 lifetimes later, will be given more importance by the Lord than what is important for the current life. Okay. So the Lord is speaking from the soul perspective, and he is first chastising Arjun to say that, you are speaking like a learned person, but actually what you are speaking is like a fool. Why? Because you are not wise. Because if you were wise, you would not lament, nor neither for the living nor for the dead. Okay. And then he starts answering. He is answering from the eternity perspective, which actually is the function of the soul. A soul is eternal. A soul does not have a beginning, nor does it have an end. And these are the characteristics of the soul, which the Lord will talk about going forward until verse number 30. That we will cover over a period of 2 or 3 classes. Now he is saying that there wasn't any time where neither did I exist nor did you exist. We always existed. Nor any of these kings did not exist. Everybody existed. So now, obviously, a question can come up, right? If the body upon death, if the body is burnt and is, it becomes ashes, then what is it that the Lord is talking about, that we existed? Obviously, he is not talking about body. He is talking about the soul. And then he talks in further detail the cycle of birth and death he talks about. He's saying, as a soul, the embodied soul, dehino, okay, staying within the dehe, okay, dehino asmin yatha dehe, kaumaram yauvanam jara, meaning the childhood, youth, and old age. Okay, as the body passes through various stages, okay, similarly, the soul moves from one body to another. That is dehantara prapti. Yeah. And dhiras tatrana muhyati, a sober person. That means a person who is not deluded by this material illusion. Such a sober person is never bewildered by such a change. Okay. And to give an example of this one, the Lord speaks in 22nd verse about the changing of clothes. Okay. As we change clothes every day, we don't lament for the change in clothes. Similarly, for the soul, the body is like a cloth. When it changes the body, it is like a change in cloth. We change every day. The soul changes in every life. That is the only difference. So that is how the Lord is teaching us. Okay, so we covered until this one. Now we will go to another very important verse, that is verse number 14. Okay. So let's read the verse. You can unmute yourself. मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय
मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदा
शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखदा
आगमापायिनो नित्य
आगम अपायनो नित्या
तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत.
तां स्थितिसक्षव भारत.
Can somebody read the translation?
Yes, Prabhu, I will read. Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Shri.
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, portion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we have seen this word Bharata coming quite a few times previously as well, right? Bharat and Bharat are two different things. Yeah. Bharat is the name of the king who ruled in a very nice manner for a very, very long time. And because of which the uh, our country got the name Bharat. And another meaning of the word Bharat is a descendant of Bharat. So when Krishna is speaking here, he says Bharat, not Bharat. Bharat meaning the descendant of Bharat. So he is addressing Arjun, O son of Bharat. Okay. Oh, son of Bharat, sorry. Now let's look at these in a word by word manner. Okay. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Kaunteya is son of Kunti. Simple. Matra sparsha. Sensory perception. What does it mean? That we have senses. That senses tell us about certain um, aspect about the material object. Sometimes with the eyes we may see something, we may find that very beautiful, so the eyes are telling us something about the form of the object. Sometimes we may smell something and we may like it, so the nose is telling us that okay, that whatever you are smelling is actually smelling like this one. Is it good or bad? We take a decision later. Sometimes we hear, right? So the senses perceive some information about the material object, and that is communicated to us, to the intelligence, to the mind, and based on that certain decisions we take. So matra sparshastu kaunteya, this is simple. Shita ushna sukha dukkha. Okay, what does it mean? You will see this phrase coming quite a few times in the remaining part of Bhagavad Gita. Shita is cold, ushna is heat, sukha is happiness, dukkha is distress. Okay, so what does it mean? Basically that the way winter and summer seasons come, and because of which we perceive cold or we perceive heat, similarly the sukha and dukkha keeps coming and keep going. Okay, now what is the similarity between the happiness and distress and cold and heat? Agama apaino nitya, anitya. This, you can see this little apostrophe here before nityas. That is the alphabet A over there. Okay, so agama apaino anitya. Okay, what does it mean? Agama is to enter, to come. Apaino is to go, disappear. Anitya is basically temporary. So what does this mean? The way winter and summer seasons come and go, okay, and their stay is not permanent. We don't say 24 by 365 by 100 years the winter season will stay. The winter season stays for 3-4 months, summer season stays for 3-4-5 months, and then again winter season comes. Yeah. This cycle goes on. Okay, we have, so okay, so the entry of winter is beyond our control. Entry of winter or summer is beyond our control. The exit of winter and summer is also beyond our control. Okay, their duration is also beyond our control. Okay, and both are temporary. Okay, they come, they go, they come, they go. So this is exactly the nature of the happiness that comes in our life or the distress that comes in our life. Yeah, so just for the sake of discussion, okay, has anybody of you become happy? Yeah, everybody, right? We become happy. Okay, whatever the reason is for you becoming happy, has that reason remained permanently? Yeah,
Always temporary.
it is always temporary, right? So let's say a student scores highest marks and is the first in the university. He must be happy for many days after that result was published. But will he remain for the same reason? Will he remain happy in the same quantity forever his life? No, at a certain point of time, the happiness will reduce. It's not that he will become sad when he remembers it, but it's like, a joke being told to us. We don't laugh on that joke, on the same joke again and again and again, right? At a certain point of time, it becomes stale. Similarly, we don't cry for the same sad event that happens, which makes us sad. We apply a limit there. So no single event, no single reason can make us permanently sad, nor can a single reason or event can make us permanently happy. Yeah. So this is a similarity between winter and summer season, right? And we did not ask for it, that happiness to come or the distress to come. We did not ask for it to go away also. It came by itself and it will go by itself. Yeah. We have no control over it. So again, another similarity between summer and winter season. Yeah. So what the Lord is saying is, in such a scenario, tam stitikshasva bharata, you have to tolerate this one. Titikshasva. I would say the most important word of this particular verse is titikshasva. You have to tolerate it. Why? Because you have absolutely zero control over neither the entry nor the exit nor the duration nor the magnitude of happiness or distress or whatever it is. You have absolutely zero control. You are like a, कठपुतली बोलते हैं ना. Okay, you are like that toy which is operated by the child. Absolutely zero control over itself. So when people go to temple, especially Hindus, and they will ask for, please, so and so God, give me this much money, or this property, or that wife, or this girl, or that education, or this or that. Anything and everything that they ask, if not all, 99% is material. Hardly anybody goes to a temple to say, I don't want anything. I just want you to bless me so that I can progress in my spiritual life. Hardly anybody goes. Mostly people go for asking something material. So what the Lord is now highlighting here, that why do you need to tolerate? Okay, let me just ask you, all of you, why is the Lord saying that you have to tolerate? What do you think?
Because this, for example, winter and summer, they comes and goes. They are not in our control. Similarly, these situations in life, circumstances are beyond our control.
Correct.
So we have no control over it. The only thing in our control is to tolerate them, whatever is coming, right?
But why is the Lord saying tolerate? Yeah, you don't have control, which is correct, but why tolerate? आज लोग बोलते हैं ना कि your future is in your hands, right? So if the future is in your hand, why can't you take efforts to avoid that sad distress event altogether? Any guesses? Garimachi, you are silent today.
It's part of our own karma. So the soul has come on earth to tolerate. I mean, to bhuktify all those karmas.
Perfect.
So we might as
Exactly.
well might as well stay happy and tolerate that and get over it.
Correct. So I will give you one example now. Okay, this example is applicable for the second chapter and for the third chapter also. So meaning I'll try and avoid repeating the same example, but just hear me out. Okay. Now, whenever we are discussing Bhagavad Gita, you should keep in mind that we are discussing the duration of the soul over multiple lifetimes. We are not talking about it from one lifetime perspective. It is from multiple lives. Okay. Now let's assume in the previous life. Okay. Let's say Jijit Babu. Okay. Let's say I took, say, 100,000 rupees from you. Okay. And when it came to giving it back to you, I told you, no, I will not give you. Now let's say both of our previous life got over and the new life has started. So our memory has been erased and now we don't remember. Neither do you remember nor I remember. Okay. But the Lord remembers. So the Lord will ensure that I pay back to you your 100,000 rupees in some or the other manner, right? Or the equivalent. Okay. So now if I forget that I had taken from you and I'm supposed to give you, let's say I give you this 100,000 rupees in this life, and then I keep asking this money from you. and you don't have the intention to give. Why? Because from a karma perspective, it balances out. But I do not remember that I had made such a mistake in my previous life. But now, if you don't give this 100,000 back to me, I will consider you as a cheater, and I will then file a police case, or I will beat you up, or I will do this and that and all that. So now what is happening now? Because I forgot my mistake previously, I am committing another mistake now. Now, if I, let's say, beat you up, say just for the sake of discussion, and I get back my 100,000 rupees. Now what I have done, I still have 100,000 on credit, yeah, which is not mine. So in the next life, the Lord will ensure that I pay back this 100,000 to you along with the beating that I have given. So now this cycle of karma is just expanding. In the process of taking this 100,000 from you, okay, if I cause some harm to your family member, obviously this family member has to cause some harm to me in my next life. Plus 100,000 to be given, plus some beating and all that, right? So it becomes more and more complex. Now, what we forget is that I have actually committed a mistake in my previous life, because of which the Lord has created a situation upon me that I am supposed to give this 100,000 to you. And the moment I realize that the Lord is the Sarve Sarva, okay, the Lord is knowledgeable across all our lifetimes, as he mentions in the verse number 26 of 7th chapter. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kashchana. I know the past, present, and future of all living entities, but nobody knows me. Now, because he knows the past, present, and future, and because he is the controller of this material energy, that's why the events that are happening in our life are actually under his control, and they are actually good for us. Because the cycle of karma will stop immediately if I were to tolerate this loss of 100,000 in my current life. When it goes to you, the karma will stop over there. Instead, if I resist it and if I take more actions and I do something which is not right, I'm actually continuing the cycle of karma. So the Lord is saying, tolerate it. You are the one who caused this karma. So he is telling me that you have lost this 100,000. Why? Because you have got 100,000 extra in your previous life. You are supposed to give it to that back to that person. And that is how the Lord wants us to stop that cycle of karma. That's why he's saying tolerate it. Okay.
Prabhuji, I have a doubt to ask.
Yes,
Now,
please.
the example which you have given, it's about the money.
Huh.
Now, my question is, let's say to have a karmic reaction, which can take up to the next life, let's say. I mean, there must be definition to what are the actions that can, you know, I
Carry
mean,
forward.
yeah, carry forward. So either of course, maybe money, or maybe I've heard somebody, or many things.
Correct.
Maybe,
Correct.
is there a list like, I mean, is there like a list like that, or
I precisely don't know, but whatever I have personally not read it, but whatever I have heard from my seniors, that there are various Puranas, various places wherein various types of pap karmas have been mentioned, and the proportionate punishment also has been mentioned. And in a kind of at a summary level, Garud Puran also mentions some of these. Okay, so if certain person does certain sinful activity, what is the effect of that in his next life is also mentioned, but it is not a kind of a complete list. It is probably a summary of it. And also what happens is, our Shastra is not prescriptive. It is based on principles. Say, for example, uh, we tell our child that you should study, and you should study because you will get good marks, and that will help you in your future. So this becomes a principle, right? So now if the child comes, Papa, should I study computers more or maths more? And should I study by sitting on the bed, or sitting on the sofa, or sitting on the chair, or should I study in the morning or in the evening, or what? So these becomes details. Okay, so if I were to preach to him or guide him at a detail level, then that becomes prescriptive. Whereas if I tell him at a principle level that however you study, you should study with a concentration to get good marks, then he will apply this principle in every different circumstance to understand what is right, what is wrong. So our Shastra is more at a principle level. So you may not see a kind of a very comprehensive list of the various sinful activities that can get committed, but a kind of a principle oriented list is there mentioned in various scriptures. Uh, in Ramayana, when Kaikeyi asks Lord Ram to go on exile, at that time Bharat is not present. When Bharat is asked to come over to Ayodhya, and that time he understands what has happened when few people talk to him, and he goes and meets Kaushalya. So Kaushalya tells him that, are you satisfied now? And meaning by getting the kingdom. So she is thinking that Kaikeyi and Bharat both have plotted this whole episode, because of which Ram had to go on exile. So to prove it to her that he was not part of it, he talks about 50 different sins that one can commit, and each of these sins is the punishment for that is death. So he says that if I have committed this, I should get death. If I committed that, I should get death. Okay, then he talks about 50 different sins. So that also is a big list actually, but the Shastra has even more than that. Yeah. But again, they are principle oriented, not a kind of a comprehensive list. And as we go forward in Bhagavad Gita, we will explain why this comprehensive list is not good and why principle oriented list is good. Hare Krishna. Any doubt or any question on this 14th verse?
Sorry, I'm jumping in for Jijit ji.
Huh.
With due permission of Sachin ji, there is a book called Fakir. It's a trilogy by author Rusbe Barucha. Okay, and he's written three books, and it's more of a very, he has given very good examples in our daily life, which art which by God's knowledge is considered sin and not considered sin, sort of, like even like getting angry or scolding to our juniors. How can that also be considered as a sin? So, but very much related to our present day life, those three books have been written on what God wants us to, how to lead our life. So that can also be read with respect to this book. Thank you.
Okay. So okay, let's take one more example by which tolerance can become a bit more clear. We all played with our friends in our childhood, right? And sometimes we lost, sometimes we won whenever we played games. And sometimes when we lost, we became angry, then we fought with our friends and all that, right? If somebody, let's say, had recorded 1 or 2 weeks or 1 month or 2 months of our actions, okay, how would we feel? Let's say we were playing a game of, say, carom or chess or cricket or whatever it is. We all played these games in our childhood, and let's say we were not able to take a particular coin while playing carom, and we became very angry and we lost the game and we had a big fight with our friend or something like that. Somebody records this one, and now 20, 25 years later, they play that recording to us. What would be our first reaction to that? How would we look at it? Would we think, oh yes, I made a very good decision. I by becoming angry and by beating up my friend, I did a right thing. Will we think this way? Or will we think, oh, such a childish thing it was. What was it? Was it a reason to fight upon? Yeah, obviously. So what has happened now? What is the difference between us 25 years back and us now? That is the maturity that we have received, and we have been able to understand the non-consequential aspect of that incident, right? That winning or losing is absolutely inconsequential, right? But despite being inconsequential, our reaction at that time, we may have justified it, but at this time, the same reaction, we consider it to be very childish, immature behavior, right? Now, when we rise in spiritual path and our spiritual maturity increases, then also we will realize in the same manner that when we become angry on certain things, that we think that so and so thing happened in my life. No, I deserve better. This shouldn't have happened with me. How can Lord let this thing happen with me? And we resist and we do this and we do that and we try to avoid the incident, or we react in a very sharp manner to a certain incident which has already happened. But 10 years, 20 years later, okay, as we grow and progress spiritually, we will realize that this, all this, what we behaved 20 years back was so foolish, so childish. Then the only difference is we have grown spiritually. Yeah. So the Lord is expecting us to grow spiritually and display tolerance to the events that are happening in our life, knowing it very well that it is because of the fruit of our karma that is coming to us. Now, what has happened? Let's say I am driving, somebody hits my car from behind, and I'm very wild at that person. कैसा गाड़ी चलाया तुमने करके, and then we start abusing each other. Okay. Now this difficult situation was I was supposed to be in this difficult situation, because of which the Lord has arranged the whole thing. Okay. This is also a return, a fruit of my karma. What happened was the Lord chose that driver to become a delivery man for me of my karma. So when a courier guy or a postman comes to our house, what does he do? He couriers, or he gives us some physical packet given by somebody to us, and given to us, right? So the driver is also doing the same thing. The Lord uses him as an instrument to deliver our karma to us. That's all. We become wild on that person, thinking that ye bande ne, this person did this to me, which is actually the mistake. If not him, somebody else would have done it. If not the second person, third person would have done it. But our karma would have come to us in some or the other manner. If not a person, maybe a stone or a rock or something, some non-living thing would have fallen on our car, or something would have happened. But the karma would have come to us in any way. So the Lord is saying that how I give you back your karma is not important. What is important is that your karma has come back to you and you have absolutely no option. The way you do not have control over the winter and summer seasons, you have no control over the incidents that happen in your life and the happiness and distress that comes along. You have to tolerate. The way you tolerate winter and summer seasons, you have to tolerate the happiness and distress also. So this was about verse number 14. How does it apply to Arjun? So it basically says that Bhishma and Drona are going to die. Okay, it's already decided by the Lord. The war is just a kind of a nimitta, a kind of a, a mechanism to deliver that to them. Okay. So Lord is saying that the change of body is going to happen in any case, which he will put forward as further arguments subsequently in the next verses. But the Lord is saying that if you don't kill them, they are anyway going to die. So by not fighting the war, you are not going to avoid their death. So the death is inevitable. The change of body is inevitable. Similar to the change of seasons. Okay. 2, 3 characteristics we learnt about happiness and distress. First is it is peripheral, meaning it is related with the body and not the soul. Yeah. Second one is it is unavoidable. Yeah, they come, they go, you have no control over it. Yeah, and it is temporary. It doesn't last for a long time. Yeah. Shall we do one more verse? Is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So 2.15. Let's finish it. Okay. Yam hi na vyathayantete
Yam hi na yante te.
Yamhina Vyanthe Ete
purusham purusharshabha
Purusham
Purusham
Purusharshava
Purusharshava
sama dukkha sukham dhiram
Sama Dukkha
Dukha
Sukham
Sukham
Dhiram.
Dhiram
so amrutatvaya kalpate.
So Amrta Tattvaya Kalpate.
Okay. And can anybody read the translation?
Hare Krishna. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Thank you. So now you will see this theme in Bhagavad Gita in almost throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So the theme is Krishna talks about a principle. Then he talks about the benefit of that principle. Then he talks about what happens if you follow the principle, what happens if you don't follow the principle. So he tries to cover that principle from various perspectives. And after this one, meaning we know Bhagavad Gita, we spoke about it, it's like a ladder. So when you go to the second step is higher knowledge than the first level knowledge. So he talks about when he goes to the second step, he talks about the drawbacks of the first step and the positives of the second step. Then when he goes to the third step, he talks about the drawbacks of the second step and the positives of the third step. It is purposely done that way so that we understand how it transitions from one step to another. What are the basic ones and what is the highest bhakti yoga. When he comes to it, we will talk about it. So what is that highest level and why is it the highest level? So he gives a complete philosophical explanation there. So now here also, after speaking in 14 that you have to tolerate, what he does is he tells us what is the benefit of tolerating it. So he's saying that a person, dhira. Now this word dhira has come second time. Yeah. When did it come? Once before? Anybody remembers? Dhiras tatra na
Tatrana
muhyati.
Mohyati.
Yes, exactly. So this dhiras, that is a sober person, has come in 2.13 and it comes in 2.15 again. So he's saying such a dhira person who is equally placed, in equilibrium. So he tolerates happiness and distress in an equal manner. Such a person is eligible for liberation. Very important point, yeah. So when does a person becomes meaning reaches the position of such tolerance? When he understands that all these activities that are happening and the perception of whether it is happiness or distress, all this is at a bodily level. So when I win a lottery of say 1 million dirhams, I become happy. Yeah. But what is this one use of this 1 million dirhams when I change my current body and I adopt a new body? After death and in my new birth, I have absolutely no use of this 1 million dirhams. Correct? So whatever that happiness I had after winning this lottery is because I had a body. If I lose 1 million dirhams, the sadness is also there because I have a body. Because this loss of 1 million dirhams makes absolutely no difference to me in my next life. So the happiness as well as distress caused by the gain or the loss of 1 million dirhams is at a bodily level. The sober person, the dhira that is mentioned here, he understands that these incidents, events, whatever are happening, and the happiness and distress that I'm perceiving out of it. It's not actually, I'm just perceiving something out of it, is also at a bodily level. But because he understands that he is a soul, he is not a body, that's why he is able to tolerate this duality. And that's why he is not disturbed by happiness and distress, steady in both of them, and because of that he becomes eligible for liberation. So now you will see this is the first time in Bhagavad Gita. Of course, Krishna has hardly spoken few verses so far. So, but so far, the goal, spiritual goal of liberation is first time mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, but meaning to meaning highlight it now itself, liberation is not the ultimate goal. Many people think that moksha, mukti, is the ultimate goal. Yeah, people strive for mukti, people strive for moksha, but moksha is not the ultimate goal. Okay, various scriptures they they confirm that bhakti is the ultimate goal. Why? Because if you achieve bhakti, a good quality bhakti, mukti comes automatically along with bhakti. But if you go for mukti, bhakti may not necessarily come, right? Let's say, for example, when the CEO of or the chairman of a company approves something, automatically the marketing manager or the finance manager's approval is assumed, right? But if a marketing manager approves it, it's not necessary that the chairman's approval will be received. So that is how we look at bhakti and mukti. So bhakti, you know, brings mukti along with it, but mukti has no authority over bhakti to bring her along with itself. So what he is now saying, you have to tolerate. Why? Because this tolerance will make you steady, and this steadiness will make you eligible for liberation. Now, Purusham and Purusha Rishabha are two words that Krishna uses here. Rishabh meaning the best. Okay, so you may have heard Rishabh Dev was one of the incarnations of the Lord, right? I'm not sure if you would have heard, but Jain religion, Rishabh Dev was the uh, first one, the most important one. Okay, so Rishabh, oh, he was a incarnation of Lord Vishnu himself, and complete information about him is given in Srimad Bhagavatam in 5th canto. Yeah. And the Bharat Maharaj that we talked about, right? We talked about, right? The person from whom the name Bharat came, the Bharat Maharaj, he is the first son of Rishabdev. Okay. So, and that information is also there in 5th canto in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Purusha Rishabha means the best among men. That's what Krishna is addressing Arjuna as here. Now, why is knowledge of the soul important? So we constantly remind ourselves that we are not the body, we are the soul. anything that is happening is actually because of our past karma, and the body actually is supposed to suffer this particular karma. The soul has nothing to do with it. Once the karma is suffered, we give up the body. We may take up a new body, or we may not take up a new body altogether, right? And this knowledge will help us be apply that thought that this is temporary. Once we understand the temporary nature of the events that are happening in our life, we will become a bit sober, we will grow spiritually, mature spiritually, and then we will be able to apply this knowledge on the events and look at it in a neutral manner. And this is possible when we consider ourselves as the soul and not as the body. And this also helps us avoid further entanglement into these incidents. Otherwise, if we take these events at a bodily level, if somebody comes and he slaps me, okay, I have to remind myself that this slap is a repayment of what I may have done either to him or to somebody, but in some other manner, Krishna is actually giving a slap back to me. Sometimes it can happen, right? Person A borrows from person B and person B borrows from person C. So sometimes when person A is supposed to return to person B, the person B may say, okay, don't give it to me, give it to C directly. Yeah, because I am supposed to pay him, you pay him directly, then the matter will be solved. So what happens is in the karma also it may happen, person A may slap person B and person B may slap person C. Now, when it comes to giving back, person B may say, will tell C, okay, don't slap me, slap A. So then the matter will be clear. Yeah, that can also happen. So Krishna can deliver our karma in any different manner. The point is, our karma will come to us and we have no option, but we have to tolerate it. Hare Krishna. Any question around this verse? From the next verse onwards, Krishna starts talking about the characteristics of the soul, and it goes on until verse number 25. Okay, which we will look at it in the next verse, next class. Any question?
Prabhu, in this shloka, when Krishna says, who is eligible for liberation, so what is the meaning of liberation here?
Mukti. Actually, the word that he has used is amrutatvaya. Okay, so amrutatvaya means amruta is the word is divided into two words, a plus mruta. So in Sanskrit, a before a particular word negates that word. So mruta meaning the one who dies. Okay, mrutyu is death. Mruta meaning one who is dead or one who dies. A mruta is one who doesn't die. And tatvaya meaning basically to that stage when one reaches, that is a stage where one doesn't die, which is basically mukti, that is liberation. Is that okay?
Basically, my understanding is like person he will away from life and death cycle, is it?
Yes, he will get rid of cycle of birth and death. You're right.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Any question? Any other question? Jijit Prabhuji, Garima Mataji, any other question? No? Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna
Thank you. Hare
and
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Let's meet next week. Hare Krishna.
Ji. Hare Krishna.